This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
Hello and welcome to this Christmas edition of CMDR Decks. I'm Uriah, the main guy, and normally when you think jolly old man giving away presents, you might think of some different archetypes as far as Commander is concerned. But for some people, Christmas just isn't that fun, and they're more grinchy. Well, today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at my Memnarch Commander deck tech. Now, when you look at a Memnarch deck, it's obvious that he's going to take stuff. But the issue I found with Memnarch is that he's such a disliked and easily hated upon general that sometimes it's hard just to make him stick. So perhaps some of these choices you'll see in here may not see play in traditional Memnarch decks, but I feel that with the limited amount of time I can actually stick him on the table, they make sense for me. So let's go through the deck. We've got 21 basic islands. I like to keep the island count pretty high in this deck just because I am running Vedalken Shackles and I want to make sure that I can go ahead and steal pretty much any creature that I want to that hits the other side of the table. I have a pretty high island count as well just because a lot of the cards in here are pretty high for the blue casting costs, so I want to make sure I can hit that. We have Tolaria West. It usually just transmutes to tutor for something. Halimar Depths, just to go ahead and try to set up my turns a little bit better. Minamo, just to untap a legendary permanent. Don't have a ton of permanents in here, but enough just to make it worth it. Tutorable, I have Seed of the Synod and Darksteel Citadel as tutorable artifact lands, because there's ways for me to go ahead and search up artifacts from the deck. So if I'm light on mana or if I need additional mana sources, that's one way for me to go ahead and find them. I do run the Urza. Yes, this one is not Japanese, so I failed on that. Tower, just because I'm going to be drawing hopefully a lot of cards. High Market, because I'm going to steal stuff, and sometimes I don't want people stealing their stuff back, or I don't want people stealing Memnarch. So High Market just is a sacrifice outlet for creatures, just to get rid of them and take them off the table. A single fetch land. And then we also have Temple of the False God, just to go ahead and get my mana up a little bit better. Maze of Ith for the one-shot targetable generals. And Inkmoth Nexus as well. I do like to have some Infect in here, just because it's another way to win, and if you can get this turn 1, get 1 poison counter on them, with enough proliferation, you can actually take some out of the game, just by sitting behind defenses later on, so that's okay. Vesuva, copy whatever good land is out there. Soldevi Excavations, this sort of lets you scry. You have to bury an island when it comes into play, and it does tap for 2 mana, so it's not going to be as much of a mana hit unless it gets, destroyed, so you are taking a risk there. But if you have enough land and you can start scrying through the top of your library, that's pretty good as well late in the game. My own little destroy lands package there, Strip Mine and Wasteland. Here we get to the fast mana stuff. Quite a bit of fast mana stuff, and I have gotten Memnarch out as early as turn 2. When I do that though, I just like to think of it as more of a challenge, and I just try to kill someone with the commander damage as opposed to actually stealing everything they have and locking them out of the game. So for the fast mana, we have Mana Crypt, Chalice, which is good with my proliferation theme in here. Soul Ring, Vault, Grim Monolith, Darksteel Ingot, and Blinkmoth Urn. It makes mana for everyone based upon how many artifacts each person has. So there are times when it could help an opponent, but usually I'm going to have more artifacts on the table than my opponent, so it's not going to hurt me as much. And I'm usually on this netting about 4 to 5 mana when it hits play, so that's pretty decent for me every turn. For stealing stuff, since, again, I'm going to be grinchy, I'm going to take your stuff, and maybe you're going to kill my Memnarch, and maybe you'll tuck them. So I got to find other ways to go ahead and take your creatures or your things. We have a few cards that do that. Shackles, Treachery, Bribery, stealing a creature directly out of your deck. Acquire, do it for an artifact. I'm going to steal your turn by stopping your turn. It sort of works. Spelljack, one of my favorite spells, counter something and then you can play it back later. Gather Specimens is always fun as well. And then I'm so grinchy, I want to take your turn. There is no Academy Ruins in this deck, as you saw in the land base, so there's really no threat of me recurring Mindslaver, but just as a one-time effect, I love it, it's fun. More stealing. Take possession. Knowledge Exploitation, steal a spell from their deck and play it. Blatant Thievery, also very good. Scales very well in multiplayer, obviously. Some Planeswalkers in the deck. If you're not familiar with that art, that is the book promo Little Jace. Then we have Bigger Jace. Tez, just for the artifact goodness, I guess. Karn. And then we get into the creatures. Gilded Drake, also a little grinchy. He's going to take stuff. I have ways to bounce him back to my hand, whether it's with Jace or Crystal Shard. So there's easily replayability with this guy as well, which is important. We have Tutoring with Trinket Mage, some small artifacts as you'll see. Synod Artificer. If I was going to cut a card from the deck right now, it would probably be this guy. I have a lot of fast mana. He makes fast mana faster, just by allowing me to, tap all my mana artifacts, then untap them and tap them some more. So he sort of ramps me a bit, but with as much fast mana as I have, do I really need that much more? Usually not. I hardly use his tap X target non-creature artifact abilities. There's really not a whole lot of artifact non-creatures in the game that people will use to tap stuff that they don't need to tap right away when you try to tap it. So really the tap ability is not going to be so much usable on this card for me. It's going to be the untap stuff where I'm going to try to ramp my mana even further. Some clone effects, because when I do steal your stuff, maybe it's really, really good stuff and I want to go ahead and have more of them. So we have Metamorph and Clone. Vents are just go ahead and bounce either a problem, permanent, or spell back to your hand. Vedalken Archmage. I don't run a ton of artifacts in this deck, but enough that when I want to go ahead and chain a couple, draw some extra cards, this is an okay card for that. Vesuvan Doppelganger, just to change my copy every upkeep if I want. And then the morph version of that, the Shapeshifter. Consecrated Sphinx, he is a flying beast. The ability to draw cards is really good, and obviously this card gets fought over quite a bit when it hits play. Frost Titan, just to tap down there. Problem permanents, and then start getting in for a little bit of damage. Jingataxis Core Augur, sort of a griefer card, but again, I'm going to be a little grinchy with this deck, so yeah, it works for me. Blightsteel Colossus, also a little grinchy. Yeah, I want to try to one-shot you if I can. The two proliferation cards I got in the deck, Contagion Clasp and Contagion Engine. Really, really, really good with Everflowing Chalice. Once I can get Chalice up high enough and I can start double proliferating on it, and then just, use that to tap this to do more, the mana is just going to go crazy on my side, which is what I want. This is a pretty mana-hungry deck. A couple of wipe spells. Disc. Evacuation just for the dudes. All is dust. Some bounce stuff. I have Hurkyl's Recall. Maybe someone's going to try to wipe all my board out, and I want to save all my artifacts, which maybe all I have on the table. I can recall them all back. Maybe someone else dropped a bunch of early stuff on their side, like Soul Rings and Darksteel Ingots. I want to slow them down. I'm going to recall them. There is also in this deck Mycosynth Lattice, so with Lattice in play, yes, I can one-sided upheaval someone's board for 2 mana, which is mean and is grinchy, and it works. Crystal Shard just for recurable bounce, which is great. A couple counter spells, Force and Pact. Twin Cast just to get something nice on the stack. Maybe early Kodama's Reach or something. Fabricate just for tutor for whatever I need at the time. Capsize just because it's so versatile. The only take extra turn spell I have in here, unless you count Time Stop as a take extra turn, not really an any way to tutor for this one in my deck. So just when I grab it, draw it, play it, take an extra turn, it's fine with me. A little bit of graveyard ante with Crypt, Volcanic Tea, just to go ahead and take key to untap specific artifacts I need, or maybe go ahead and go quicker on that early mana ramp if I only have one or two of those early mana rocks in play. Power Artifact, it does go infinite with the Grim Monolith, so I can go infinite colorless mana. It's really, it is what it is. You can also put it on Memnarch, reduce his steal copy, or steal and change to an artifact abilities as well. So those are really the two major cards that I'll be enchanting with my Power Artifact. Some draw spells in the deck, not a ton. Visions, Fact or Fiction, Memory Jar, Time Spiral, and then also lets me shuffle back up my light graveyard if I want to go at some stuff again. And then just some random artifacts here at the end. Pith and Needle, usually for other planeswalkers, fetches up with Tezzeret quite a bit. Rings of Bright Hearth just to copy the proliferation effects, or the planeswalkers, or Memnarchs. Rings is really, really good, of course, and a lot of people know that, obviously. Crucible, not the best. I mean, if no one destroys any of my lands, I have one fetch. I lose a land off the Excavations, which I can get back, and then I also transmute the Tolaria West. So there are a couple lands I can get back just when I have them in play, but because land destruction exists, I run the Crucible just so I can go ahead and stay safe if I start to get targeted with too much land removal. The aforementioned Lattice lets me steal a lot of things a lot easier since it makes everything an artifact. And then, because artifacty wrath effects are no good for me, I'm going to go ahead and run Darksteel Forge as well. As always, thank you for watching CMDR Decks. Please subscribe and favorite.